From grocery lists to books to poems to songs to newspaper articles to magazines to songs. Somebody had to write it. That somebody is a writer. Who are these people that you call writers? Why do they write? Tonight on Writer Space, we're going to have some writers and we're going to talk to them. So let's take it away. All right, so there's the introduction. Welcome to Writer Space. I'm your host, Michael Uhila. Tonight we have special guests that are writers from different fields, and we're going to speak to them tonight. Our first guest is Dr. Ida Oberman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we also have Diana Diamond here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And we have Geraldine Solon.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, the show is about writing, and I see new people writing a little bit. And we want to talk a little bit about who you are first as a writer, and we'll go into the details of that later about your achievements and things like that. So let's start with you, Dr. Ida Oberman. Tell us a little bit about who you are and some of your credentials.
So I'm Dutch born and German educated. I went to elementary and high school in Germany and then came to America and got my doctorate here and started a school in Oakland, California. Community School for Creative Education, the first urban Waldorf school in the country that's public.
Okay. Once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we have Diana Diamond. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, a very different life. Born in Long Island. I became a journalist fairly early on and have been a journalist now for a number of years. I worked for the San Jose Mercury News as an editorial writer and as a columnist. I was editor of the Daily News in Palo Alto. I was associate editor of the Daily Post. I was editor of California Lawyer. So, I mean, newspapers are sort of my shtick.
Okay.
and a very different kind of writing, I think.
All right. Well, we'll get more into the details of that later. And Geraldine Solon, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background.
So I started writing when I was 8 years old. I started writing poetry, but I felt a higher calling to write romance novels. So I have 3 books that are out, and 2 of them are being made into film. And aside from that, I also am a screenwriter. So.
Okay. So we have screenwriting, we have newspaper writing, and we have research writing. It's all writing. It needs to be written. Why? Start with you, Diana Diamond. Why does somebody care what you're writing about, for real? Like, why does somebody want to read it? Are you just writing for yourself? Or?
No, I mean, if you write for newspapers, you have a little bit of an audience there.
Okay.
And I mean, for me, it's a cause to inform people, get them to think differently, get them to look at what's happening in the world around them, and maybe it's even a passion.
Okay.
But I think all of us writers are always facing that blank piece of paper at the very beginning of anything.
You mean like this?
Yeah, exactly like that. Exactly.
I don't have nothing on here.
Whether it's the computer screen or in the typewriter or wherever, it's still a blank piece of paper. And what am I going to write? And so I think that's a universal problem for all of us.
Thank you. And Dr. Ida Oberman, how about yourself? About why do you write, or in your field,
Right.
like somebody on the other side, like, what's she saying? What's she trying to say in this paper?
The reason that I write is so that we hear the stories, so that we hear the generations of experience that has brought us to this point. And in my case, I've always written about education and education reform and really wanting to learn the lessons from the past so we don't repeat errors but move forward. And my passion has been Waldorf education, and there's been a tremendous amount of stories that I've been able to record through oral histories that I've been able to work into books.
Okay.
And on the basis of those, I've been able to build a school.
All right. And Geraldine Solon, tell us a little bit about.
Well, in my case, I believe that next to motherhood, writing is the best job in the world.
Yeah.
And for me, it's an emotional experience that I want to share with the world. It's my passion. And my goal is really to inspire, entertain, and make a difference in this world. And I hope to touch people's lives through my stories and through the characters that I create. And so basically, that's it. And it makes me happy.
Okay. You know, some of the things that I remember in school, they tell us about writing, and you have books to read and tools. What are some of the things that, or tools that you use as writers in your field? You have newspaper writing, you have research, you have fictional writing. Is there something there that help you, or is it like you gotta listen to, like, you know, some music in the morning, or what is it that gets you going, what drives you?
Oh, the tool that helps me is the thesaurus.
Okay.
So I can always get alternate words. Deadlines. I mean, I'm constantly driven by deadlines, and you have something to write that's due at 3 o'clock this afternoon, so give me a 600, 700 word column, and the adrenaline is great. That's another tool. But it really works well.
Okay. And you, Dr.?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, you don't want time, you want deadlines. Those are tremendously therapeutic. I would also say thesaurus and dictionary, that every word is so precious, and learning a new word any moment opens a new world. I'd also say that examples, just read. Lots of novels, lots of biographies, to immerse myself in different styles of writing, and having mentors. It's been very important, mentors in my writing.
And you know, some of the things that, you know, okay, personally, I'll get sometimes offended if I send something to some editor or something, and immediately I get criticism. Now, how do you deal with criticism? I was like, the first thing I said to somebody was like, well, everybody's a critic. You know, you're entitled to it. That don't mean that I have to accept it. But I was a little hurt about it. How do you deal with it over the years? You ladies have been around, and you get rejection letters, you get, sorry, you're not good enough, or that's not our style. How do you, let's start with you.
In my case, I believe you have to have thick skin in this type of business, you know, and you have to be able to take rejection, because that's the only way you're going to grow. If you're just going to be stuck and you want people to sugarcoat and say, hey, your writing is nice, and you're never going to get higher in your work. You're never going to grow. Yeah. So I work with professional editors. I have a critique group. I take classes all the time, because I'm constantly learning, especially for writing fiction. Writing is an art, right? There's a difference between art and craft. So you can have your talent, but you still have to learn the craft, because there's so many rules in how to write a novel, how to do a screenplay. So I'm constantly learning. So with that, I feel you have to have people to tell you, you know, the right thing, where to go.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would just add to that, make sure they tell me why they're giving the criticism they are. Just make sure you get to the bottom of it, so you can really decide if that's something you want to adopt, and it's an incredible wealth.
Okay.
And I'm a political columnist, but as a columnist, I have the luxury of writing whatever I believe and feel.
Okay.
So I'm strong on opinions.
Right.
And people hate me and love me for my opinions.
Right.
So tough skin, like you were talking about, you have to adjust. And the only thing that really bothers me is people say, well, you got your facts wrong. When, I mean, that really hurts. Particularly if they disagree with me, because their view is different, they claim my facts are wrong.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of more conflict. Yeah. I grow more skin.
That's right.
And you know, when you're writing, you have the facts, you have opinions, you have laws. There's certain things that you do, and what are some of your rules? Like, everybody got some code of ethics as far as what you do in your writing, or it can just apply to your life, that how you spill it over into your writing career. Or start with you.
Well, basically, like for writing novels, there are rules, but you don't have to stick to all the rules. You know, for me, in my case, it's if you think about all the rules and then you don't come up with a heartfelt story, then it's bland, right? So I believe in adding the themes, and also I mean, I'm more of a character-driven writer, so I believe that my characters have to be compelling, have to be three-dimensional, and to be able to, where people can sympathize with them and relate with them. So I look at that, and I look at the plot, I look at the bigger picture, if the structure is sound and if the pacing is right. So all those, I have to look at the bigger picture when I'm writing a novel.
Okay. Yourself, Diana Diamond?
Be fair.
Be fair?
Yes. I mean, that's part of my creed.
Is fairness and objectivity the same thing? Or are we...
No.
Okay.
No. Be fair. I mean, if somebody tells you something, be fair and be honest in reporting it. Be humble.
Okay.
Because
That sounds like something I've learned a long time ago, you know?
and but it works because people believe you more if you are humble. I mean, you have to build your own credibility, and people may disagree that I am or I'm not humble, but if I try to be, then I feel comfortable myself. And what else? Well, go ahead.
Well, as a researcher, it's be thorough. In my research, oral history, I did a lot of interviewing of elders in Holland and Germany, and one elder in Germany said, "Der eine schreibt's vom anderen ab," which is, this was a lady in her 80s. She'd never gone to the university, but she said, one guy copies it from the other, i.e., don't trust one footnote, but check that footnote against the previous footnote, so you don't have the copied error going down in history.
Right.
So really being thorough in your sources is tremendously important, just to retain the precious past.
Okay.
Oh, I have one more.
Sure.
Don't be boring.
And don't be bored.
That's the best rule.
Well, and newspaper stories are structured, so you start with the most important things and then you funnel it down. But I mean, you've got to grab the reader pretty early on.
And that would count for research as well, which is often accused of being boring, often not fairly, I'd like to think, but that you have to bring the story next to the facts. The facts can be important to have evidence, but you're not going to win the hearts and minds if you don't bring the story. So you have to bring those to even preserve the facts.
All right.
Yes.
Well, I just want to remind people out there that they are tuned in to Writer's Space. I'm your host, Michael Uhila, and we're here with some lovely guests. We have Dr. Ida Oberman, and we have Diana Diamond, and Geraldine Solon. Welcome to the show. This is Writer's Space, and we're talking about writing. And I'd like to continue on with what we were talking about as far as code of ethics, things like that. Your backgrounds as far as, am I correct? All of you have some Stanford University connection here? Okay, we'll start with you.
I handle events for the International Development Department, so we organize all the events in Stanford.
Okay. You still have to do some writing there?
Well, emails and, you know, yeah.
You like scratch it down first and then send an email, or
No, I just
a couple of
type it.
notes, or okay. And yourself?
Well, I had a night fellowship at Stanford. For those who don't know what that is, they give about 12 fellowships a year to journalists in the country.
Okay.
And it's a lovely, lovely fellowship where you experience Stanford for a year at their cost. And then I worked for the university for about 11 years.
Okay.
Mostly for the president of the university and then for the dean of the medical school. And that was fascinating. I got to have a lovely overview of what the university is all about.
All right. And yourself, Dr. Ida Oberman?
So I came to Stanford first to get a master's in medieval history, and then came back for education history and got my PhD in that field at Stanford.
So there was a lot of writing between all of you you had to write to get in, right? Or did you have to write a resume? You had to keep writing reports, dissertations for those big words. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, give us a story about your time at Stanford, or something that stood out and maybe helped your writing, or something inspirational.
I also I took up creative writing courses at Stanford and at the continuing studies, and I can say they're really, really good. The teachers are very professional, so I take majority of my courses at Stanford, and it has really helped me a lot with my career. And I just completed a screenwriting course, and so I just want to take more courses there. So that.
Okay. Thank you. So, The process of writing. Boring sometimes, right? Laborious. Heartaches, headaches, you name it.
Good days, bad days.
Good days, bad days. It's like, damn, I don't have no kind of
days.
inspiration.
Yeah.
There's nothing coming. Is there such thing as writer's block? I don't know. Let's start with you.
Yes.
There is writer's
There
block.
is.
Okay.
Less and less. I mean, the more practiced you are, it's not writer's block. More of a problem that I have is, what the hell am I going to write about?
Right. Okay.
I do a column or sometimes 2 columns a week, and you have to come up with topics.
Okay. And yourself?
Yeah. I had a huge writer's block at one moment at Stanford in my dissertation.
Okay.
And it was only when my focus on research came to bridge the novel and journalism that I could get through that block. When I realized there is some real imagination that has to be brought in, and there's actually some current event relevance that has to be linked to, and then I knew why I was writing for the future to report on the past.
Okay. Any books that you've read that helped you with your writing or continue to help you with your writing? Or, like, I'll put myself an example. Sid Field's book on screenwriting.
Yes.
It's
That's
like
a very
the
good
holy
book.
grail.
Yes.
And it's helped me in writing television script for shows. And television script, like, I started with poetry. So, but it's creative. So it's not like with script writing, it's like, enter the room, the light shines this way, and there's all these technical things that you have to do. So there's
visual.
more visual, there's voiceover, there's all that. And that transition from one medium to another, it helped. And then I never wrote scripts where I actually had the actual timing of certain things. So you have like, okay, at 15 minutes and 32 seconds, I'm doing this and then that. Whereas in creative writing, it's like free for all. There's like, you're like a butterfly with a pen, you're just out there. How about yourself? Books.
Well, first of all, I have the opposite answer, because I recently read one of Henry James' books, and he took 18 pages to get a character through a doorway. And I decided, this is
It's too much.
nobody should write like this. So I learned from my bad example, maybe.
Right.
You
could say too much. You could be writing too much.
Yeah,
As Orwell
yeah.
says, George Orwell, one of the quotes that I remember was, if there's a long word and a short word, pick the short word.
Pick the short word. Make it clear to the reader. You don't have to appear erudite all the time.
Right.
Because it's what you say that makes you smart, not necessarily all the long words that you use. And but again, I come from a different background. I've got a lot of academic friends, and you read some of their writings, and you say, "Oh my God." But I just have a different discipline.
Okay. How about yourself, Dr. Ida Oberman?
It's actually not that different. If I think of what really guides me, it is examples, and I think of Dick Lyman's Stanford, The Years of Turmoil, which is absolutely so precise and concise.
And good read.
And an unbelievably good read, or David Kennedy's Freedom from Fear, or Doris Kearns Goodwin's work. It's where it's real history, or Isabel Wilkerson, where it's real history, but it is also a good read, and it really takes you along.
Okay. Just want to let the viewers know that they are tuned in to Writer's Space here on Michael Uhila Presents. We have special guests, Dr. Ida Oberman, Diana Diamond, and Geraldine Solon. Welcome to the show, and we're talking about writing. We've been talking about writing and some of their backgrounds in writing. What does the future look like as far as, we got text? Look at this. I got the iPhone here. I could just text President Obama if I want to, if I had his number, right? So things are changing. We went manuscript. Right? Manuscript is Latin for handwritten, correct? So there's some changes, right? They're shifting. I mean...
There are, yeah. Well, in the case of books, e-books are actually controlling the market. They're selling more than paperback.
Kindles and iPads and stuff like that.
iPads.
Okay.
Actually, in Japan, there's this thing called cell phone novels where it's only like 15,000 words, and people read it in the subway. They read it on their cell phone. So the way I see it is, even if the method is changing, reading will always be there. I mean, we're always going to want to read books. We're always going to want to watch films. It's just maybe the method of delivery is different, but it's always going to be there.
Okay.
I hope you're right. you know, I'm suspicious. I mean, I think
And newspapers are kind of like,
Oh,
I mean, I've been hearing this. I've actually talked to people from the New York Post, and they're saying, I don't know if I'm going to have a job. I don't know if things are
not
right.
good. I mean, and partly because people don't read. I mean, the younger people. All right.
No, I
quick story. I
Go
once
ahead.
interviewed a potential reporter for a job, and I said, "What do you read? What newspapers?" And he said, "Oh, I read the Wall Street Journal. I read the New York Times. I read the Washington Post every day. I read the Chronicle. I read the Examiner, the Mercury."
Right.
And I said, "Oh, that's very impressive." And I said, "How much time do you spend reading all these?" And he said, "A good 5 minutes a day."
So he just
5 minutes is like,
yeah.
So I'm not as optimistic about you as about people reading, but I think tweeting has really
Tweeting.
changed our life around too.
okay, we're going to
Twitter.
get more a little bit into that.
Well,
how about,
going back to writing,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that Bill Gates actually studied calligraphy, and that was his inspiration to really get to the Macintosh. I mean, that we really, that
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
Jobs, thank
yeah.
you very much. Steve Jobs, same idea though.
Yeah.
Right.
Comparable. The idea being that really getting into writing can be a very important springboard into a lot of other things, also reading.
Right. So,
Stay crucial.
because we have speech writing, we have writing for websites, we have writing for cookbooks. Somebody might want to learn how to make some top ramen or something. We have other different types of writing. We have writing still. And how is the transition from one medium to the, as Marshall McLuhan said, the medium is the message. How's that transition for you when you go from research into being a librarian, or being a librarian into, like, you take some of that over here? Does this make sense?
I think you just have to be in this world. You have to be innovative. You know,
Okay.
you have to be on top of the game. Like, let's say, let's say for the area of books, where ebooks have taken over, then as an author, you have to be able to make your books available in that market.
You must
have to
adapt
be. You have
to
to
the time.
adapt
Okay.
to the times.
To what's
yeah.
going on
and
as
find
far
your
as-
niche. You know, because maybe your audience, not all of them are buying those tablets, right? So are you writing for the right audience? Even before you write your work, you have to see who's your audience. Who are you writing for? Why are you writing? I mean, those are the things that you need to ask yourself before doing everything. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Diana Diamond?
I'm going to pass on your question because I don't really have a good answer.
Okay, fair enough.
I actually like to layer it. I mean, I write my research, I give talks, I talk to kids, I talk to parents, I talk to policymakers, I talk to district officials, but I draw from the research. I mean, to constantly be walking that span, you really live out of the breadth of all this knowledge. So I think it's also not one way to choose. The word choice I've made is not to be just a niche, but to go broad.
Okay, we're gonna have a roll-in, gonna set up for it, but let me set that up. Basically, inspiration. Every writer, whether you're a speech writer, or whether you're a screenwriter, or a fiction novel, or a newspaper writer, or you're just writing a website, sometimes you need some inspiration. Where does it come from? How do you have an eye for it? Just like photographers, they have an eye for certain things, or poets, they're just ready to write a poem anytime. Where does that inspiration come from? And that's we have a little presentation, and this is for the writers, because sometimes we need that. And so is that ready? Rolling? Okay, let's take it away. There it is. All right, we're back. It's Writer Space. Michael Uhila presents, and I'm here with some writers. And that was a presentation on inspiration. Dr. Ida Oberman and Diana Diamond, as well as Geraldine Solon. Welcome to the show. We have a few minutes left, and let's just talk about inspiration and why do you keep doing what you're doing? Why haven't you give up yet? Why don't you go get a job at 7-Eleven? Or McDonald's, wherever you want to work, I don't care. But fill in the blanks. Why do you keep doing what you're doing? Like, is it the...
Well, in my case, like I said earlier, I want to inspire and entertain and make a difference in this world. At the same time, I also want to leave a legacy behind, you know, like having all these books and films. I mean, it's going to pass on to different generations. So I just want to live my purpose, and I believe this is my calling, and I'm happy. It makes me happy.
Well, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Diana Diamond?
Well, along the same lines, I mean, what I do is very tangible. I can see it in print, or I can see it online, and that's rewarding. Not because it's me, but because
You see proof right away. Like,
yeah. I
boom,
mean,
it's right
it's,
here.
yeah,
Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
And inspiration, I'll answer after you talk about your.
Yeah, no, I'll build on both. So for me, it's building schools that kids can receive so they have more strong options, and the work isn't done, and until it's done, I wouldn't be fulfilled. So it's definitely a dedication and an inspiration and a path.
Okay. All right. And your inspiration, why do you keep doing it?
I think my antenna.
Why didn't you quit yet, or retired, or get a job at like United Airlines or something?
Because I don't like to be bored.
Okay.
There you go.
And even though writing is a very internal, you know, one-to-one,
Very lonely
one
job
to me,
sometimes,
I still get excited about it.
All right.
Because all these ideas come floating through my head. And I get the inspiration from, well, I have my antenna up, as I said, all the time. Hearing the radio, hearing conversations at dinner parties, hearing somebody say something to each other.
So you should come to our community school for field education. And
Well, that's
talk
all
to
the time
kids
we
about
have. I
it.
want to thank our guests, Dr. Ida Oberman, Diana Diamond, as well as Geraldine Solon.
Thank you.
You tuned in to Writer Space. Maybe next time we'll have more writers for watching, and you have a good night.